And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Pug Thompson. 100%. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
We had a lot to talk about this weekend. After this weekend, I was in Dublin. You were in LA. We covered basically we covered half the globe. Pretty much.
Absolutely half the globe.
Yes, we covered half the globe.
From Dublin to LA.
It was awesome. I mean, I had a great, you were right about everything that we talked about. The crowd, the energy in Dublin. The 3 Arena was a beautiful arena, and just the setup was awesome. The way that they sing and it bounces off the walls, it was absolutely amazing. And you were definitely not wrong about the Jameson's tour. I had a great time.
I am here for you.
It was awesome. So I did the mixology class. We taught us how to make a whiskey sour, and they taught us how to make it old fashioned. I'm an old fashioned kind of guy, and so I had those. And then they made this little punch that just knocked me off my socks. It was pretty awesome, man. I had a great time.
Yeah, that punch is good.
We had a great time.
And it will definitely leave a mark on you.
Yeah, we got done with the class, already three drinks in. And then after the 3 drinks in, we went out to the bar and had a couple more old fashions. And then, it was good. We had a great time. I had a great time.
And the best part about that whole Jameson thing is all those bartenders and the people that do it, they're all fight fans.
Yes.
So they watch all the fights. They talk about them. They're great people.
Yeah, we got lucky. I went there with Fish, and when we were there, and just so happened someone there recognized me and took us in the back, gave us like a couple drinks out of basically dropped the chain down into one of the casks. It was like a 16 or 18-year-old cask that had been waiting to mature. So they dropped it down and pulled out a little bit of that and filtered it because it had a little bit of the sides of the cask on the side of it that had fallen into the whiskey. And so they filtered it, poured it for us, swished it around a little bit, watched the little teardrops come down the sides, and just sipped on it for a bit. It was good, man. It was good. We had a great time. I was very impressed with people were extremely nice.
Super nice.
Everywhere we went, there was tons of tourists, but people were just very friendly, and everywhere we went was a good time. We walked a bunch of places, the Hoppenny Bridge or whatever it was called. And Fish was telling me the story behind it all, and it was pretty cool, man. I had a great time.
Come on, you have to admit, I'm watching on my phone during a production meeting, and Peter Queally is going to fight Ryan Scope. Peter Queally comes out. He comes out first. They're playing Zombie, and I hear the crowd start to go, and I go, this is what I was talking about, Josh. Yeah. You weren't there. And then as Ryan Scope's coming out, I know they're playing this song, and you just hear the crowd still screaming the Zombie song, and finally he's actually moving his hand to the sound of the Zombie song. I go, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, they did that to all the fighters. The fighters that every time they came out, if they were fighting someone that was from Ireland or from Dublin, you couldn't hear their walkout music. They were singing the whole time, the whole night. For the Paramount show, they were singing. For the Channel 5 show, they were singing. For some of the prelims, they were singing. If their fans were there, they were singing for them. It was pretty awesome. We had the overall experience. It definitely did not disappoint.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a special place.
You brought it up though, and so we'll just jump right into that. Peter Queally and Ryan Scope.
Man, that might be the comeback of the year fight. I mean, Queally, he was so dominant in the first round, landing the better shots, everything. Almost, you could say, almost a 10-8 round, maybe not, but definitely easily goes to Queally as the round. He comes out in the first, 10, 15 seconds. That kick up hits him. He goes down, and Scope is on, put everything he could in trying to finish him. Queally was never you got to kill him in front of his fans, and he comes back on top. And as soon as they stood up, you could see it in Ryan Scope. You're done. Up here, I'm exhausted. I've burned all my gas. And you see him starting to cover, and then Queally comes in, does what he's supposed to, and Scope, ends up getting stopped by him. What a comeback by Queally. But I think Ryan Scope's going to learn a lot from that fight. He had a lot going into that fight off of his fight with Pitbull. I thought, that's a fight where even though he got a loss on his record, he didn't lose.
Yeah.
He built his status, in Bellator, in the MMA community, and this fight he's going to have to look back on. I don't know if it was a conditioning thing. I don't know if it was that he just shot all of that gas out trying to finish him, but that's one that you got to be ready to keep going.
Well, there's a couple things that I want to bring up about this fight because you weren't there. You were in L.A. I mean, I'm not sure if you heard or and I'm sure a majority of the people out there don't know. But they had basically Ryan Scope had met with Peter Queally's coaches in the lobby at the hotel and talked to him and said, hey, how much does Peter weigh? I weigh about 170. He said that he weighs probably about 168, 169 at the time. And they were getting ready to start cutting weight. It was like the day before weight cuts. So they hadn't even really started cutting there a day and a half before. So then Ryan Scope said, well, what do you think about us not cutting the weight? And he's like, well, I don't know. Let's reach out to him. They reached out to Peter Queally, and Peter goes, yeah, that sounds good to me. Whatever you want to do. But what goes through my mind, and you're already smiling, we have this battle back and forth.
Here comes Josh and his weight cutting. Come on, baby.
We have this battle back and forth. And for me, when the battle starts for fights, it kind of starts with the weight cut. The fight itself is, to me, the easy part. The camp,
you're right.
The camp, and then the last thing, like the candle on the cake, the last thing that you do to finish your camp is weight cut. And when you're done with that, you feel like you've done everything you possibly could have done to get back in that cage and beat somebody who maybe didn't do it as well as you did throughout that camp. And I know it's a mental thing, but if you take a look at that fight, as soon as they got back to their feet, he was mentally broken. Mentally broken, and I didn't think I would see that from him given his performance from Patricky and how he looked and how he was the one pressing the action in the third round. I didn't believe I would see that. But then when I heard about this exchange of him calling and reaching out about how possibly, like, let's not just put our bodies through it. Let's just, not make let's just agree upon 170. And Bellator, of course, is like, look, we don't care what weight you guys fight at. As long as you guys fight. We don't care if you cut weight. We don't care if you don't. And I like that as a promotion. They make the adjustment and they said, look, 170 it is then.
As long as it's not a title fight, what does it matter?
Exactly. So to me, that I was like, all right, this is good. We'll see how this pans out, and it just, to me, it just felt like a mental, for me, if a fighter called me and said, hey, how about we just meet at 170, knowing we're both 170, I'd have been like, no, son, no.
No, because see, you're looking going, I know that I can make that weight and I'll be okay, but I want to make you suffer.
Yep.
I want you to have to lose that weight, feel bad, go through this whole thing, and then in the end, I think I'm going to be the stronger guy.
Well, there's also that, too, that what happens if your diet and your nutrition and all that stuff wasn't as clean as mine throughout my camp? And I worked harder. And when it came down to the last 2 to 5 pounds, who's to say you're not going to be able to drive through it and push through it? And it's going to take more out of you than it would take me. And...
Well,
And basically that right there can make or break. Let's just say I get another 20% of your purse. Sure, we're both 170, but your diet and nutrition, maybe it wasn't as good as mine, and it's harder for you to make the weight. And then my performance is better than yours.
That could be that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that can definitely be a factor. It could be a true fact in the events, and it can also be that Ryan Scope was in shape, and he comes in there and, hey, you want to not lose weight? We'll not lose weight together, and we'll just fight at this weight. And Queally is sitting there saying, yeah, it's okay with me. And, yes, Scope ends up, it's exhaustion that made him lose the fight. And that's part of fighting. It's, it's not, you don't always get beat by the punch or kick. Sometimes you get beat by the pace or by the pace that you bring, that you think you're going to end the fight and you don't, and you just blow up in the fight. And that's what happened to Ryan Scope in that fight.
Well, I'm gonna take it a step further, and I'm gonna do what Josh Thompson always does. I'm gonna put blame on someone. Okay, I'm gonna blame, and I'm gonna. I think now from now on with this show, I'm probably gonna be the heel because you're always the nice guy. So I'm probably gonna be the heel.
That's because I am the nice guy. Let's be honest.
But I kind of blame his corner. I blame the fact that they should have been yelling to him, pace yourself, pick and choose your shots. He had opportunities. I understand when you rock him, drop him, you jump on him, you try to finish him. But once you don't get it after, say, 30 punches, maybe you should kind of reconsider how you're approaching that. Like start trying to hold the position, strike, do damage. Try to always stay moving so your opponent never really gets an opportunity to secure you and settle you down so you can't land dominant striking. But he was in mount. He had opportunities for chokes. He had opportunities for striking. But it seemed like every time he was the ref was about to step in, he decided to go for a submission.
He went for the choke.
He went for the choke. And then he lost it, and then he went back to punching, and the ref was about to step in, and then he went back to the choke. And that I credit Peter Queally because he was the one that was Peter Queally for moving around so much, giving his back, not giving his back, side control. But he was mounted. He was he was being dominated by Ryan Scope for those 2.5 minutes of the fight, 2 minutes of the fight. And he just the inexperience, and I think also too from the corner. The corner, that showed to me that there was inexperience in the corner of there should have been yelling to him, pace yourself, pick and choose your shots, maintain the top position. Whatever you do, do not get out of mount. Stay there. Yeah. Mount back, mount back. Once he got to butterfly and he got swept, I was like, this is not looking good. Seconds later, Peter Queally just backed out and was like, get up to your feet, let's get it on. And Ryan just put his back to the fence and it was over. You could tell when somebody who just had a dominant performance for 2 minutes of just laying the leather on me and then they're the ones backing away, that lets you know right there that he was done. He was exhausted.
One of the things that fighters start to get in their mind is if I put a big, huge amount of volume on this right now, the referee's going to stop the fight. And if you understand what the referee is looking at, he's looking for damage. Volume as far as multiples. If they're not hitting hard, you're like, I'm going to let it go. Yeah. It's exactly what you're saying. Instead of burning all that energy in that motion, slow things down, press that position, bring one hard elbow, one hard punch, do things that are damaging that now you see the fighter, instead of being able to be like Queally was mounted with his face up, now he's having to turn and he's trying to give his back because he's being hurt. That's going to bring that referee in more, and you're expending far less energy in doing it.
Yeah, for me, I felt like my cage awareness was pretty well when I was fighting. So I never really I kept trying to land strikes, but only did I try to ramp it up is when I saw the ref kind of start coming into the picture.
Getting tight.
The ref was always outside the picture. He was never within my peripheral when I was trying to do damage until it was getting close to him to stop it. And when he stepped into my vision, that's when I realized, ramp it up. You need to get this guy out of here right now, because if you don't get him out of here, you could potentially be tired and he could end up getting back to his feet and making you work twice as hard for a fight you could have finished. So I always just, in my mind, I kept that in my mind. If you see the ref step into the frame, okay, it means that something's going right. It's either going right or going wrong. Unfortunately, I was on the wrong side a couple times too. So it was just one of those things where you just think to yourself, it's going right or it's going wrong. But that was kind of like my rule of thumb. You know what I mean? Like if I could see him kind of start to inch in, because I never really heard. I occasionally heard the refs, but I was more listening to my corners. But I just visually always had the idea if the ref was kind of in my vision, something was going good for me if I was on top. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of guys will go off of hearing the ref and hearing something in the words of, hey, move, get out, fight back. That's starting to, I heard that, and I just started ramping it up, going, I'm not going to let you fight back. I'm not going to let you move, and I know I'm going to get my finish.
Yeah, the only reason why I never really went out, because I didn't really hear you guys all that often either, but the other thing, too, is that sometimes you guys will give that warning 3 to 4 times. So that could be a long time of trying to land strikes.
We're trying to trick you.
Yeah.
Our whole thing is to make you tired, man.
And I get it, because if that was me on bottom, and you and I have had this conversation in the back when you would always talk to me in the back before doing my fights, I would just tell you, don't stop the fight at all until I stop moving. That was my one thing I would tell every ref. Just do me a favor. If I'm still moving, I'm still in this fight. If I'm not moving anymore, I get you. I understand.
Yeah.
And when I go back and watch the video, it's pretty it's pretty clear that I wasn't moving anymore, in certain fights, and so you understand, like, hey, this is the fight game, that's what happens. But I go back to the Scope and Queally fight, hands down fight of the night, probably hands down fight of the weekend. I wouldn't say
except
performance.
for AJ.
Yeah, AJ was performance to me, performance of the weekend.
I'll give you that.
But I give Queally the fight of the weekend for sure.
I agree.
Of the ones that I saw, I didn't get a chance to watch UFC, so all you UFC nut huggers,
nothing that great.
Calm down. Okay, I didn't get a chance to see it, so I can't include any of their fights. You guys gotta pump your brakes. Okay, slow your roll. Okay, give me a sec. But I'm talking strictly Bellator right now because I didn't get to see the UFC. But yeah, I thought to me it was that was for sure the fight of the night for both cards. Performance of the night goes to AJ Mckee, 100%.
Oh,
100%.
I mean, just comes out and just look. He made a statement. He went out there, and Georgie talked a lot of snap about training with his dad and trying to get in his head. And AJ went out there and said, "Oh, really? Let me show you what I'm made of."
Wow.
And that left hand, man, that left hand put him down, and that left hand finished him. That thing starched him the second time he hit him with it.
Yeah.
Hell of a performance. I mean, just incredible, and making a statement to every other guy in that tournament. Hey, you don't want none of me.
Yeah, you had talked about this the other day when I talked to you. You said when I got into the fighter meetings in LA, you asked every fighter who's the number 2 guy outside of Patricio, and they all said AJ Mckee.
Yep, every one of them. Every guy there. I said, in asking, all right, well, who do you look at as the guy that, man, this is the guy that is a guy to beat. And they all, to a man, AJ Mckee. They know how athletic he is. They know how fast he is. They know he's talented. They all think they have, I think I know the way to beat him. 15 guys have tried. No one has come up with that answer yet. That's a riddle.
I just have a question, though, for you, like, since we're on the AJ Mckee bandwagon right now, because I definitely am. I'm definitely not.
Well, and yes, I am the guy that was the guy I picked. You're right. I'm sorry.
No. Let's clarify this for all of you guys at home that don't understand what we're talking about. We said on the broadcast, pick a dark horse. Yeah. Not a superstar to win the event. Now it's already been confirmed by all the other fighters that he is the number 2 guy to win this whole thing. All the other fighters. They all think he's the guy. He's the favored guy to win it outside of Patricio. All the other fighters agree. We said pick the dark horse. He picks AJ Mckee.
No one was talking about him.
AJ Mckee.
It was like he was invisible.
Yeah.
No one ever was even saying a word about the man. I had to bring him back to life.
I said you cannot pick a superstar. You cannot pick a superstar. Yeah, he's definitely not the dark horse, but he is still in the tournament. Unlike my guy, I had Saul Rogers. He had he didn't have the performance that I thought he would have. Obviously, when I said this though, look, him fighting Daniel Weichel is, to me, and I've said this over and over, he's probably the best and the most technical in the whole tournament. He's so good all the way around.
And his takedown defense during that fight, there was 2 times that Rogers got incredibly deep on him.
Super deep.
And man, he shucked it off. He did a beautiful job of keeping that fight exactly where he wanted it, and that's why he got that win.
Yeah, there was just multiple times where he just, even when he did get in, he didn't turn the corner. He just tried to power through him. And I had him, I thought he would do better on the exchanges of chain wrestling it better together, and he wasn't able to do that. And it kind of surprised me because I felt there was so many opportunities for him to get the takedown. He wasn't able to capitalize on those opportunities. Because I feel like if he was able to get Weichel down once or twice, it would have changed the dynamic of the fight. It would have changed how the fight would have been, how the fight would have been, had to have been fought by Weichel moving forward. Because I think it would have changed how he approached being on. I mean, he would have been on bottom. He would have zapped his energy. It wouldn't have been the same fighter going in after that. We see the amount of ground and pound that Saul Rogers can do and the damage he can do when you get stuck on bottom with him. Because he's a nasty ground and pounder. He reminds of I don't want to say Fedor, but he has like that, just that nasty style of ground and pound, for a smaller guy. Very talented. But
he has Tito Ortiz style ground and pound. He comes up very high over the top. He's trying to hit with big shots, big elbows. If he could have gotten Weichel down, definitely a different fight, but you have to give it to Daniel Weichel. What a performance. And taking a guy that really was a good pick by you as a dark horse, took a guy that we all thought. I had picked him to win the fight. I thought that Sal would be able to get Weichel down, and that would be the difference, and I was wrong. Yeah,
I'm glad you admitted it because I was wrong too, obviously. But good stuff. Good stuff overall. I want to go back to the Dublin card. I know we're bouncing around here a little bit, but I want to go back to the Dublin card, and I want to talk to you a couple things. Let's talk.
Yes, you were asking questions on your broadcast. Let's go.
Yeah, let's. I want to talk to you about Benson Henderson. I thought he started fast. I thought he performed well. I thought he'd do everything he possibly could have done. He could have potentially amped it up a little bit more, trying to get the finish. But in all of those things being said, it's hard to fight somebody who doesn't fight.
Yes.
How do you fight somebody who doesn't fight? And I'm a huge fan of Miles Jury. I was supposed to fight him a couple times when UFC and Strikeforce first merged. His name was thrown out a couple times, and I always said I wanted someone ranked higher. He's extremely talented, and he's so much better than what we saw. And your first fight in a new promotion, a new home. I know you're in Dublin. I know you're it may be further away from San Diego where you're training. I don't know, man. I expected a lot more out of him. I wanted something more out of him. I at least want to see a competitive fight. He was never in the fight, never once. He just didn't throw.
No, it's exactly what you're saying. I give Benson credit. He came out fast. You and I have both complained to him about what are you doing about starting faster? What are you doing to not start off giving away that first round? And he's always been talking about how he's been working towards, being able to start fast, pulling the trigger. But when you have a guy that fights completely defensive against you the entire time, is not presenting any openings, that makes it difficult. Now, it doesn't mean it makes it difficult in the end to win the fight. You're going to win the fight, but it's hard to win the fight in any impressive fashion because the guy's just not opening up and not giving you anything. It's a hard position to be in. I thought Benson did exactly what we would want him to do. He came out fast. He was trying. He's facing a guy that's not giving him a lot. He's winning the rounds. You can't ask anything more of him.
That's exactly what went through my mind, is that it's really hard to finish somebody, right, when they're always just say you're grappling with someone and all they do is just get into a fetal position and just stay tucked and they're super defensive. You can't do much to those guys except punch them.
It's tough.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I felt like the whole fight was on the feet. There's no reason for Benson to even try and get a takedown because he was winning the exchange on the feet because Miles wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything at all to initiate contact. He was waiting for Benson to initiate the contact and then trying to counter. And very rarely did he even try to counter. He just tried to block and defend.
And there's something with Miles, and I had him in a fight where he was so dominant and his performance so offensive that I had him with Donald Cerrone. He didn't do a lot. He was very defensive in that fight, trying to just defend everything, not throwing a whole lot out. And it ended up being a fairly, similar fight to what he had with Benson. With the end, Donald was, he's winning all the rounds. But Jury's got this thing. He has got to get it in his mind. I got to open up and go after people. If he doesn't, he's going to beat the lower tier guys, but he's never going to beat that upper tier guy.
So speaking on that, somebody with a new promotion didn't come out and fight, didn't get after it, didn't do what he wanted to do in his first fight in Bellator. That takes me basically just his first paycheck, his first fight in Bellator. That takes me to somebody else though, with $1 million on the line and potentially winning the title, all these other things, back to LA with Henry Corrales.
I knew you were going to say Henry Corrales.
The guy has 1 round left, down by 2 rounds to Darrion Caldwell, and he just walks after him, doesn't throw punches, and you were saying he was looking, I kept hearing the commentary because I was watching on the airplane coming back from Ireland, and you just kept saying, he's just looking for the one punch. I felt like he wasn't even looking for that because even when Darrion got close, he didn't even throw. I was like, it was almost like he was afraid of the takedown. Like, dude, you've lost 2 rounds. It doesn't matter if you get taken down.
That's it.
This is it.
I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you're trying. When you try for the home run, it just never shows itself. Mm-hmm. You just don't get that opportunity. The home run punch comes when you're just trying to touch somebody. You're just trying to put shots on them, and all of a sudden, and boom, you know, just training wise, you come into it. And I'm watching a guy that I'm thinking, well, you lost the first 2 rounds. You've got to open up. You got to do something. And he's trailing, following, and not throwing at all. And time is going by, and I'm thinking to myself, Henry, you're allowing $1 million to slip through your hands right now. You're going to be so upset with yourself when you watch this again and think, what was I thinking? I feel bad for him. I think he's going to go back. I think he's going to learn a lot from it. He cannot be so concerned with the takedown that you stop doing what has made you successful.
Look, he was obviously in phenomenal shape. He switched over to a new team that has, like, I guess one of the best conditioning programs.
Got everything.
Yeah, everywhere where they're at. I can't remember what it was called. It's called Goldie trains there now.
It's Henry Cejudo's place with his brother Alfred, and I'm trying to think of fight something or other.
Anyways, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. He was obviously in phenomenal shape from his last fight to this fight. You see how lean and shredded he was for that fight. He wasn't even breathing heavy in the 3rd round.
Oh no!
And I feel like if he would have taken a page out of anyone's book, fighting Darrion Caldwell, and I know here we go, I'm going to start sandbagging on Darrion now and just
bagging on everybody,
bagging on him, and it's just I feel like the game plan has been laid out, and Horiguchi laid it out, and other guys had laid it out from before as well, but I think Horiguchi did it the best. Fighting him at 135. His excuse, not his excuse, but the talk was that he was cutting too much weight. That was my excuse for him. Your excuse for him. He's cutting too much weight. He's a big 135-pounder. He's cutting too much weight. But people talked about it all the time.
Well, I want you to think about this. Look at Darrion against Henry. Henry's the natural 145er. Caldwell's coming from 135. Who is the bigger fighter?
Yeah, Darrion.
Darrion Caldwell's way bigger.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I get that. But then he had the same performance problem that he had at 135 that he had in 145. He got tired. Yeah, he got tired.
He's squeezing.
Yeah.
He's taking guys down, and he's wasting energy in positions that he should never be wasting energy.
Yep. Yeah, and that's
coaching.
That's exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. I feel like we've had this conversation before. So you took the words right out of my mouth. It's the coaching aspect of it, which now you said he's with a new camp, or his old camp that he was originally started with in New Jersey, correct?
Yep. Well, no, he's actually in Redlands, California. It's Pinnacle MMA.
Okay. So he's with Pinnacle MMA now. So he's there with them. They're getting him back, like basically saying, like, we know how to fix him. Most people say that, and nothing really ever gets fixed. I'm just simply saying. Then that's normal. And the other thing, too, is I get a little concerned when guys switch camps going into a tournament like this, because now you've broken up the routine of what you're doing, and you haven't really set yourself into that program. You're still trying to buy into it. Whatever, and even sure you were there before, but now you're trying to buy back into it again. You wouldn't have left if you didn't have doubts already. You understand?
Hold on. And this is, he was in a position when you have Alliance MMA and you're hearing all this stuff, and you've got Eric Del Fiero and you got Dominic Cruz and Phil Davis and all these guys there, and they're telling you how wonderful it is there, and maybe it is for them, but it doesn't mean it's the right place for you.
Yep.
I had when I had a gym, Vince Pichel still fights in the UFC. He came to my gym, didn't know anything, and was from the very beginning brought up. Get him to the UFC, and he's on Dominic Cruz's team, and Dominic talks to him about going down to Alliance MMA, and that's where he went for a while. And learned, you know what? This place, I'm not learning anything new like I was before. This is not for me, and then took off and left. Sometimes you think you might get better going someplace, and you might be right, and sometimes you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Not every gym is for everybody.
No, I agree. I bounced around. Like, there was moments in my career, people never realized it, and I never made it public. But I went to a couple other gyms when I was in the office. I went to the Tito's gym there, or Tiki's gym. What's it called? Huntington Beach.
Ultimate Training.
Ultimate Training in Huntington Beach. Yeah, I went there for a little bit to help Rob McCullough train for some fights. I was like, you know what? I could like it down here. I actually, if there was another gym that I actually felt comfortable being at, was that gym. But then I went to Alliance, and not to lock Alliance, and I went down there with Phil Davis and Dom and Jeremy Stevens, and I liked the training, but I felt like all the fighters kind of did their own thing. You know, it was like they all kind of did their own thing. They kind of met for practice, and they all kind of did. And then I went to a couple other gyms, and I was like, okay, I went to Extreme Go Tours, and it wasn't for me. It was all the guys, but they all had separate managers. So everyone was okay with fighting each other, and I was like, all right, why I'm training with you guys. I'm going to fight you guys. This is a little strange. You know, so I went about it and trained at a bunch of other places. I enjoyed it, but I knew none of them really felt like home like AKA. You know what I mean? And Rob McCullough and I still maintain a really good friendship and relationship, and Tiki and I as well. And I'll go down there every once in a while and still train. Beautiful facility, you know. And but that was like, if I had another gym to choose, it probably would have been like that. But none of them, like you're saying, you have to feel like it's home. And AK always felt that way to me from the very beginning when I stepped foot in their facility. It always just felt like home. And so, that's one of those things. But let's talk about Darrion. I feel like the problem's not solved. And I feel like the problem's not solved, and the pattern's been laid on how to beat him. So anyone with a little bit of conditioning and cardio, they need to survive the first round and a half, 2 rounds, and they need to make it a wrestling and a grappling match. They need to make it a wrestling and grappling match right off the bat. Don't try and stand with him. You try and take him down.
Well, it's not. I don't even think you have to make it a wrestling grappling match, because I think Caldwell's going to do that for you. But what you need to do is, if he does take you down, you need to make him work. You need to create positions where he has to move. He has to stop what you're doing. He has to change that angle. He has to do all these things. And then I'm going to go back old school. Frank Shamrock faces Tito Ortiz the first time, and at a 30-second left in the round mark, Maurice Smith was calling out 30 seconds, Frank, and Frank would just explode to take Tito and make that heart rate climb higher and higher and higher. So by the end of the round, it's very high, and then he doesn't quite get down to where he's comfortable by the end of that break, and now he's coming back out, and I'm going to pump him again. And that's, in my opinion, right now, if I was going to have a fighter going against Darrion Caldwell, I would be working on the ability for him to explode with 30 seconds, 25 seconds left in the round, pushing that pace extremely hard, making Darrion work past his comfort point, and then let's see how he comes out the next round. And when you have a tired fighter, similar like we were talking about, Ryan Scope, that is a way of beating somebody. You fatigue someone to the point they cannot function. That's the same as a knockout.
Yeah, realistically, all he's got to do is, whoever his next opponent is I feel like they just need to make sure that he stays active. Never letting him settle on top. Never letting him just
his next
secure the position.
His next opponent's Adam Borch. We know.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough fight for him. And not only that, is Adam Borch is bigger than him.
Yep.
Height wise, physically
taller,
bigger, like physically just a bigger guy. Better kickboxer, flying knee knockouts in the books, and very good off the ground. And will continue to work. We saw him get dominated by Aaron Pico for 2 rounds. And he just didn't even look like it bothered him. Didn't even look like it fazed him. Came out in the third.
Which tells you a lot about how tough mentally he is.
Yep. I got to tell you, like, now since my dark horse is out, he's probably my next dark horse.
That's okay. It's a good one.
I mean, he's tough. He's tough. Yeah, I feel like those. I know people are going to probably sit at home and I'm ragging on Darrion, but I'm not. I'm just simply saying, like, I hope he gets that fixed. Because when you were at 135, you had a reason. Now you're at 145, you don't have a reason anymore. Because if the reason should be $1 million and a shot at that world title, that's all the reason you fucking need. Like, you shouldn't need any other reason. Before, it was like, okay, I'm cutting too much weight. Now you're at 145. And you got $1 million, you need to fix that conditioning problem. Whatever that conditioning problem is, you need to get it fixed.
I did talk to his coach after the fight, and while they were after they were doing the selection show. And I talked to him and I said, you need to get Darrion to understand wrestling is not going to get him a win. Same as what happened with Horiguchi. If you are just wrestling and you're not opening up, creating situations to either go after a submission, go after a strike, these judges don't care that you're on top. Yeah. If you're wrestling and your opponent is just hitting you to the sides and yet they don't see you compensating something as far as a submission attempt or strikes to counter that, you're going to lose this round. Yeah. So he needs to understand what he needs to do, and he needs to definitely work on either doing something to up his cardio or something that he can do to relax himself during the fight.
Yeah, to me, I feel like that just comes with more time and more repetition on being on the mat in live MMA scenarios. That's what it comes down to. And understanding that he doesn't always need to hold his position, that he just needs to learn how to flow like water. You know, the whole Bruce Lee mentality.
That's it.
And you know, another guy that had that same type of mentality, except he wasn't trying to hold them, but was Mike Van Arsdale. Extremely athletic and just very talented all the way around. Mentally didn't have it. That was one. And two was he just tried to wrestle you to death. And you're not going to wrestle someone to death in MMA. And that showed when he fought Randy Couture. Randy Couture was broken at the end of the second round. Randy was broken. So was Mike Van Arsdale. Randy saw how broken Mike Van Arsdale was. He stood up off of his stool and bounced around. And Mike Van Arsdale looked at him and saw that and told Bob Cook to throw the fucking towel in. He's like, just throw the towel in. I'm done.
Which told you what about Randy? He wasn't broken.
He wasn't broken. He just got up. He's like, and then Van, he goes, no, Bob Cook made him go out there and fight. And it lasted like another, I don't know.
Anaconda choke. I remember
it was so quick. It lasted like, another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah,
the whole fight.
It wasn't long.
But I feel like with Darrion, he just needs to get that remedy fixed, and that's all. He needs to, pick and choose the movements when he fights. He needs to be smart about his control, and he needs to use his positioning to make the other person tired.
Yes.
I kind of almost feel like he needs to start looking at maybe how Khabib fights. And maybe start doing things like that a little bit. Sitting people to their hips.
I think the big difference is Khabib utilizes clinching his hands to get his guy down, to get him into position. But once he laces those legs and he figure fours those legs up, these are free.
Yeah.
And he starts doing things, pulling in certain areas, hitting with shots. And that's the difference with him and Darrion. Darrion is now still wrestling with his hands closed until he gets the guy into this perfect position. You're not going to always get that perfect position. You've got to create your positions, make that guy move based upon what you're doing to him, that he has to move. So it's going to be something, I don't think it's going to happen, within the time period of this tournament. He's going to have to go with what brung him.
So you brought up the selection process. Let's talk about that.
I love it.
I thought it was great. I thought I had a great time.
Well, tell me the time when you think of a promoter allowing the fighters to determine who they're going to fight. That just doesn't happen because you don't have that kind of control as a fighter. You are in this where now you can decide, I'm coming out of this fight. And this is what happened with Patricio. Patricio gets that ability to pick at the end. And when he realized I can go wherever I want, his whole thing was, I just had a hard fight. I have a cut that has to heal, but I have a baby on the way. And I don't want to be in a training camp, too soon again. And I want to be there for my baby. And if my baby is going to be born in January, if I have March as my target date, I'm happy. And so you look and you go, the date was the most important thing for him. Other guys, it was about who they were going to fight. And, that worked out for somebody. It was interesting to me that all four of the dates were picked with the first four picks instead of one fighter saying, I'm going to face you. Because you had that ability. When AJ Mckee, and I thought his selection being the first guy, he took that December. Thought that was incredibly intelligent for him. He suffered, zero damage. He had a great training camp. He is still in shape. All he has to do is now back off for a while, take some time off, stay with a little bit of your conditioning, and then come into that training camp, hit December. It's almost like, this fight didn't even occur. that's a perfect placement for him. If he'd gone farther down, it might have been a little bit more, as far as asking his body more. And then he's putting himself up there for anyone to take him. And as he watches guys not taking that spot below his picture, it's telling him something up here.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And then on top of it, I feel like him taking that early December fight, he's young, he's very talented, but he can sometimes get preoccupied after talking with his dad. He can sometimes get distracted. If he doesn't stay in the gym, he gets distracted. So the fact that he took the earliest one he could let me know that he's very serious about this situation and what this opportunity presents to him. On top of that, it allows him to enjoy Christmas, New Year's, all those little things that he can go out and enjoy. Now he's not going to be
to eat.
He gets to eat. Yeah. Thanksgiving he'll get to eat because he has enough time to still get 2 more weeks of training camp in, or 3 more weeks of training camp in from Thanksgiving on. So it's not like him eating at Thanksgiving is going to ruin 3 more weeks of training. If anything, it'll probably help him. So him eating at Thanksgiving, but then Christmas and New Year's is always the hardest part to train because no one's around. They're all off. They're all off visiting family and doing whatever. And plus, everyone's drinking. Everyone's at Christmas parties, New Year's parties. So the fact that he'll have that all out of the way, he can go and cut loose and not have to worry about anything. I thought it was very smart from him to pick that very first date. I thought it was brilliant.
And I was really surprised when Emmanuel Sanchez had his opportunity because he was like number 3, I want to say. I think Borch was number 2 and Sanchez was either 3 or 4. And he went and put his name up on that February slot instead of picking AJ because they had some heat going before the fights, before AJ had fought. And it was about, AJ telling him, you ducked me once before. I guarantee you're going to duck me again. If my name's up there first, you're going to duck me. And imagine, we'll see. Kind of saw.
Yeah.
Kind of saw.
It's kind of weird too, because I feel like Emmanuel Sanchez picked probably one of the toughest fights. He fought to fight Daniel Weichel, and who's a technician, and they're very evenly matched. I felt like I would have thought, given the history of, and I'm going back to Darrion Caldwell, given the history of Darrion Caldwell and the conditioning factor, I would have thought,
especially the pace that Sanchez brings, I would have been like, textbook, baby. Like, take me down all day long. I'm really good off my back. I'm also really good at getting up. I'm a lot better than you on the feet, by the way. And my takedown defense is not that bad. I'm going to make you work for your takedowns a little bit. To get it.
Yeah, I'm going to make you, maybe not in the first round, but by the second and the third. And by the way, these are all 5-round fights. We're not talking 3-round fights anymore. We're talking 5-round fights for the next round until we get to the finals. They're all 5-round fights. It just threw me off that Emmanuel Sanchez didn't do that. And given the fact
I was surprised by that.
He prides himself on his conditioning, and when I talked to him before his last fight, he said, "Look, none of these guys can set my pace, none of them," and he just kept talking about it. He's like, "And I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna show all these guys." But dude, you picked a guy that kind of has a pretty good pace himself in Daniel Weichel. He's someone that can. And the other thing with Daniel is that he doesn't fight at a fast pace, but when he makes you fight at his pace. He's, for some reason, such a technician, it slows the opponent down to where they can't really do what they want. You end up fighting his fight, and that's not good either for someone like Emmanuel Sanchez.
Yeah, I think the 2 guys that actually I thought were smart in the selection, AJ being one, even though he had the first pick, not a lot of choice in what he did, but he picked that spot. And then I thought, overall, Patricio Pitbull, taking that spot in March, facing a younger guy in Pedro Carvalho, who we both agree is very good. Yes. But as far as the experience factor, it's lacking compared to what Pitbull brings.
Yep.
And then he's putting 2 guys that he's already beaten in his bracket. He's got Emmanuel Sanchez and Daniel Weichel. Whichever guy comes out on top there, he's already faced both of them. So he knows what he's facing.
Yeah.
And he's making Adam Borch and AJ Mckee on the other side, along with Darrion Caldwell and Campos. But the 2 guys that you're looking at, that's AJ and the young guns. someone's going to have to cancel somebody out. So he's getting a cancellation of Caldwell, Borch, AJ Mckee, somewhere in there. He's saying, I think I like the bracket. I like what the thinking behind what he did was very smart.
That or he just did it accidentally. My honest opinion is I actually thought he was going to take Campos. I thought he was going to push AJ Mckee out and take Campos, but then like you just talked about, then he would have been stuck probably fighting the winner of Adam Borks and who was in that spot before.
Well, if he would have taken the Campos spot, that would have put AJ Mckee down to Borch.
Yeah.
And so Borch and AJ, one of them would have canceled it up, but he would have had to face him in the next
next round, in the next bracket. And that would have been before the finals.
Yep.
So I guess kind of where you're talking about, it does all make sense. You know, I'm gonna give you a little nod on that. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little nod, a little credit there. I think overall, I just thought he would have taken maybe a little bit easier route. He's fought all these guys before, but I think in the long run, the route does make sense because then he's already prepared for Emmanuel Sanchez and he's already prepared for Daniel Weichel twice, by the way. You know, and he knows them very well. He knows what they're capable of. He knows how good they are. So. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That to me, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Last thing I want to talk about is Michael Venom Page fighting Richard Queally and what happened between Michael Venom Page and the referee Dan Miragliotta.
Yes.
Bad situation.
That's the number one thing people have been asking me about for us to talk about.
Well,
wait. Before you talk. Then today, Dan Miragliotta come out and said some stuff as well.
Okay.
Saying that he basically wanted to have his side be told, and and it just, I feel like let's have a conversation. I feel like sometimes you should just let it be. I think sometimes you should just let it be. Like you should just sometimes just don't say anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. As a ref, he's a top ref. I don't know. Give me. You know everything. You know everything about this.
Everything overall. Let's take a look at this thing from the beginning of what started to the last bit. First off, when this fight was made, you got to look and say Michael Page didn't have a lot to gain by fighting Richard Queally.
No.
But he was offered that fight based upon he wanted to fight in London also, and he takes the fight knowing that he can fight in London also. People are looking at it saying it's going to be a good matchup because they're both come from a karate background, kickboxing, but they're not thinking about the speed factor. So Queally is the guy pushing all of this, resentment. He's the one putting his fingers up in front of Venom's face during pictures. He's the one stepping in front of him. He's the one creating this confrontational atmosphere. The fight starts. They end up having words back and forth. And all I can tell you is this, Josh. I've had the biggest shit talkers in the world saying, fuck you, bitch, and all this stuff during fights. So what? As long as that fighter, his opponent, and I are the only one that can hear it, doesn't matter. It's no big deal. It's not crossing the line that we have in our minds as far as that. Now you're crossing it. You start to bring in race, religion, things like that in your statements, you're crossing the line.
Yeah.
As the referee, I'll do something about it. But that's not what happened here. You hear Michael, Page says something. We don't know what he says. You see Queally flipping him the bird, and you see Dan coming in and basically saying, hey, knock it off. I don't want to see it. Page ends up landing a good shot, puts him down, and he's in a good position. He is doing damage to him on the ground, and he makes a gesture, does his little thing with the fingers, and you see Dan stopping that fight, bringing him up, and immediately taking a point for unsportsmanlike. The question is that the right thing to do? I will tell you this. He is well within his right as the official to utilize that rule and take a point. So it's within the rule book. He can do it. With the thousands upon thousands of fights that I ever did, that's how many times I took points for language or sportsmanship. Yeah. The only time I even said anything that anyone could hear was Nick Diaz fighting Drew Fickett when he was pounding on him and saying, "How do you like this bitch?" and it started to get loud, I said, "Hey, knock it off."
Yeah.
That's it. Didn't stop the fight. Didn't take him out of position. So if Dan didn't like it, he could have taken Page out of the position without taking the point. Taking a point is like the Hail Mary pass of interference. You throw that flag. The guy wasn't going to catch the ball, but you throw the flag, and now they move the ball 80 yards down the field. That's what taking a point in MMA is. You're altering that fight in a big way, and you have to be careful about what you do. So I look at it and say, you have to be very judicial with it and be smart about, are you really going to take that point? You want to warn him? Warn him. All of that aside, he's within his right. When the fight is over and Dan tries to be the nice guy and Queally wants to, congratulate Michael on the fight, and Dan tries to be the guy to make that happen, and Michael was upset with both Dan and Queally and basically said, "Fuck off." And that's when Dan said something about, "You're a fucking piece of shit." Oof. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
You have gone outside of what your scope is. You are supposed to be impartial. You don't get mad. And Dan has to, he has to know, I was wrong. I made a mistake. Doesn't mean he's not a good official. He's a great guy. I can tell you that. But we all make mistakes. And he made a mistake there. And if it's the apology is needed for that mistake, fine. It should never happen.
Yeah, I think by trying to get them to talk, he was outside of his scope also. He should just, if the fighter wants to approach the other fighter and shake his hand, then that's on him.
It's on them.
Yeah, I think as a ref, you shouldn't get involved. Your job is just to ref the fight. That's more on your area of what you're talking about. The other thing too is you can't let your personal feelings on how you would have conducted yourself interfere with how you treat the fighters.
Yep.
We had talked a little bit about how, fighters sometimes will come into the cage dancing, and things like that. And past histories have shown that he doesn't like that, or there's some other stuff. But that being said, he had came out today and said some stuff also, and I don't know exactly. I don't want to say exactly what it was. I forgot what the article was said. I just read kind of some of it real quick. The bottom line is I think sometimes you just gotta just let it flow, just let it be. So, Look, it's one of those things. We'll see exactly how it all pans out.
We'll see. Unfortunately, I know Michael's saying I don't ever want him to referee. And Dan is saying, I'll never referee this fight. That's fine. That doesn't, if that's what happens, that's what happens. No big deal. But, we all have to learn from this. Dan has to learn from it. Michael needs to learn from it. Everybody does.
Okay. All right, my man. Well, I'm going to let you run. I know you're with family. You're in L.A. You got the show this weekend in Pachanga.
It's getting dark here.
And it's getting dark there. You're getting a little faded. So I'm going to let you run. And, hey, you guys that are watching at home, you guys can follow us at Weighing In Show on Instagram, and then you also you guys can follow us at Weighing In on Twitter, right? No, not Twitter. Okay, on YouTube. Sorry, Weighing In on YouTube. Also follow me at The Real Punk, Big John McCarthy.
John McCarthy MMA, Instagram, and Twitter. Just give me a shout.
Hit the subscribe buttons. Hit the thumbs up on the YouTube and the iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play. Thank you guys. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys on Monday next week. Later, big John. Later, bud.